Let me tell you what my deep research and basically vision is.
I hope there's Bigfoot. I don't think there is.
I'm not telling you nothing.
The aliens won't let it happen.
Happening now, breaking.
Bernie Sanders is angry.
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
What are the tips? Give me some tips on how to work with Wes Anderson.
Be ready to speak very fast and very clearly, because that's definitely one key thing.
I will only tell the truth. I will only
Until you and 6 kids you barely know in wet bathing suits have surrounded 9 chimpanzees outside of a Wendy's. You probably really don't know yourself, okay?
Yep. And we back.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to your new favorite podcast and the best in political, sports, and paranormal news coverage. I'm your host, Wes Anderson, and this is In the Shed. This is episode 60, so whether you're back for more or finding us for the first time this week, hey, thanks for tuning in. It is late Tuesday evening, March 21st, and I'm in a shed in the backyard of my home in Alabama. Also, I can hang out with you tools and talk about the latest headlines, stories, and rumors in the world of politics, sports, and the paranormal. Our guest tonight is husband, dog father, fellow Huntingdon College alumni, and host of the podcast Cerebral Chaos, the great and powerful Timothy Doaty III. Doaty, thanks for joining us in the shed this evening.
Man, appreciate it. I will give you a little bit of a correction. It's Timothy Doaty II.
What did I say? Did I say the third?
Yeah, I've been called the third before. It's fine, but I'll give it to you the second. It's not a huge deal.
I even have the second in my notes, buddy. I have the second.
But man, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here, Wes. Man, I'm so honored, so grateful, so thankful to be here tonight. So honored to be a part of your audience this evening. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. Like I said, with fellow alums, we went to Huntingdon together, had a lot of good times under Dr. Saunders in that communications course, and both kind of on the same trajectory, doing podcasts and husbands, and kind of got a lot of stuff going. So, man, I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to get it going.
Yes, sir. Well, start us out, Doaty. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to in life.
Yeah, man. Like you said, I'm my two most jarring attributes, I would say, right now are being a husband. I've been married for 7 years to my beautiful wife, Kiera, this year. She's a therapist, and she's the greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life, the love of my life. We have 2 wonderful puppies, Bentley and Piper, which are 2 Yorkies that are the stars of the show anywhere they go. And man, mostly with me, man, I'm not too much wrapped up in a package. I'm just kind of simple. I like to listen to music. I like to watch movies, man. I like to watch sports. I like to play sports when I can do it without injuring myself. And
I know that's right.
Yeah, man. Other than that, I'm pretty cool. I'm a pretty laid back guy, man. I'm just a regular old schmegular guy.
Cool. Well, Doaty, tell us, where did you grow up, and what was life for you like while you were growing up?
Yeah, sure, man. That's an interesting question. So I grew up in a very small town called Bastrop, Louisiana. That's Bastrop. I always have to spell it out for people. It's on the northeast side of Louisiana. So if you're looking at Louisiana and there's that boot there, we're almost at the top right-hand side of that boot. Generally, people recognize the city of Monroe. And if you go down a little bit further, you got West Monroe, which all the Duck Dynasty guys are from.
Oh, yeah.
So we're a little close to that area, maybe an hour or so from West Monroe, more like 10 minutes from Monroe. It's a town of about 10,000 people, I think, last time the population I checked, man. We live kind of, I'm not going to come on here and act like we were poor, but, my mother and father worked very hard to make ends meet, to provide for me and my sister. We grew up and we were able to do a lot of things, spend a lot of family time. They always tried to make sure they did the best to put us in a position that we wouldn't have to work as hard as they did, and we would get to experience some stuff that they never did, like going to Disney World or going to, Universal Studios. So I mean, I had a really fun, interesting childhood, man. It really was a humble beginning in a small town that nobody's ever heard of. So yeah, I mean that's the sense of my childhood, man. It's really small, really humble, really kind of grassroots, getting in there, starting out, and kind of starting working from the bottom and kind of working myself up to where I am today.
Yeah, very cool. You already mentioned that you are married and have been
Yes.
for 7 years now.
Yes.
What has marriage taught you so far?
Oh my God, that marriage has taught me that, I mean, marriage is to me about working through difficult situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people say that, and I know it's kind of cliche, but it truly is. When I talk to people who aren't married and they ask me for advice, or when we're out, my wife has a few single friends that we talk to about marriage. It's about working through the difficult situations in life and sticking with it and sticking it out, because the person that you're with is worth the battle.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people see marriage and they like to see the Facebook side of it where people are smiling and everything's going well, but the behind the scenes to me is about marriage, because there are days when, you know, me and my wife, we're at each other's neck. I mean, it's just kind of, you're married, you know how it is. Every day isn't peaches and cream and all sunshine. Sometimes you get on each other's nerves, and sometimes you just need some space. But
That's right.
I really believe that the thing that marriage teaches you is when you're dedicating to that person and you're going before God and you're saying you're going to stick with this person through better or for worse, the part that you have to really understand is that there are going to be some worse, and there are going to be some bad times. And it's truly about working through those tough times with that person, because a lot of times you come out on the good end, and it's for the good. So the thing about marriage to me is just working through those tough times, working through those bad times. There are going to be downs, but it's just bouncing back, working through it, and becoming better. And you got to be patient with marriage. You got to understand it's not going to be your way all the time.
Yeah.
You got to have some understanding with the other person that you're with.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think I don't know. I see marriage as a refining fire.
Yes.
You know, it's something that you never really understand what you're getting into until you're in it. And
No.
you're right, man. People will tell you how hard it is. It's a lot of hard work, and you don't understand how hard it is until you are in it for a little while. But it's a good thing. It makes us grow up in all the ways that we need to.
Yeah, that's also another thing I was going to say about it. Really matures you. If you really kind of dedicate yourself, it's going to mature you, because I think at some point you've been there, I'm sure, when you were ready to get married, you thought you were ready, but in a sense you weren't. Like, you can't be ready. I don't care how prepared, how many crosses you get off your list, and how much you go down the list and check off everything. None of that's going to matter once you say I do, and then the next day starts.
For sure.
You can't be ready for marriage until you're in the thick of it.
For sure. Well, tell me this, Doaty. Everybody in their life has different obstacles, different circumstances that they have to overcome in the process of growing up, in the process of figuring out your identity, what matters to you in life, what priorities you have. What's something that you look back at and you say, this is something that I personally had to overcome?
Oh man, I have a bunch, but I'll give you a recent one. And I don't know if we talked about this, but in November of 2021, my wife and I experienced the greatest day of our lives and the worst day of our lives at the same time. We've been trying for years to have a baby and work through infertility issues, which is another thing that nobody tells you about, that there's a huge populace of America that has infertility issues, and it's very, very common, but you never hear about it because people don't talk about it. So me and my wife were actually finally able to get pregnant in 2021. And fortunately and unfortunately, our son was born on November the 19th of 2021, and he passed that same day. He was premature at about 22 weeks, so he decided to come early. The Lord made the decision to take him for the best. In that time, in that space, I really had to rationalize and come to grips with, on the same day I was given the greatest gift I could ever ask for, it was taken away from me at the same time. So you're talking about not only me having to deal with that internally, but now I have a wife that I have to manage that situation as well, and I have to work through her issues. And not only did she have postpartum depression, she just lost a child. So it wasn't a normal instance of just having postpartum depression. It was working through, hey, I had a baby in my arms, and he wasn't able to make it. So, man, we really had to pray and be steadfast and kind of through that situation. It wasn't easy. It still is not easy. I found myself not necessarily envying people that are able to have babies, but there's always that thing in the back of your mind that says, man, of course I'd like for my son to be here. So I had to really fight off feelings of, I don't know if you call it jealousy or envy or, just looking at someone else saying, man, their child made it, but mine didn't, or their wife was able to go the full 9 months in a term and mine won't. So I really had to come to grips and have a conversation with God and just really try to understand. And I don't know, I can't say I still understand to this day, but I still had to come to grips with the fact that everything that he does is for the better. So I had to understand and rationalize that my son wasn't meant for this earth for something. He was meant to be where he is now, up in heaven, looking down on us. So I mean, that was the most, I would say that's the most difficult situation I've ever dealt with in my life. And it's still a little fresh, but again, stuff like that happens in life, and it just teaches you, no matter what, man, you just can't be prepared for everything. So you're going to have to grow through turmoil. You got to grow and learn about yourself through tough situations. Because I feel like you really find out who you are as a person when you get in those situations like that. Like, who are you really? What is your character? What's your outlook? And I think the tough times like that, they help make you who you are. And I feel like we've come out on the other side for the better, but it was definitely the most trying time of my life.
Yeah, man. No, I had no idea that you had experienced that. That's that's something that we have in common. And I'm not sure. I don't even know if I've talked about it on the show, but we have 2 kids. We have a 6-year-old daughter, almost 7, and a 2-year-old son. And in between the two, we actually had a child that we lost as well.
Wow.
I say she. We don't know what the sex was, but for some reason I've always just assumed it was a girl. Just sort of always knew that. And she was not born. She didn't make it full term either. And I think a lot of times people understand that when you experience that, it is, of course, unspeakably hard on the wife. But men don't talk about the hard stuff that we deal with and then we go through. We're taught to kind of bottle it up. And
absolutely.
And that's the grief is overwhelming, and something I don't think you ever really get over.
You don't, man. You don't.
We have our son now. He was a surprise after that whole ordeal. We weren't really trying. Again, we just happened to have a son. He's a blessing. I love him to death, but he's also not a replacement. It's there's still that sense of loss, and I think you said it's still fresh. Is something that always will be to a degree.
Right. Absolutely. And man, I've tried to find words. I've never talked about that on my podcast either. I've got it down as an episode for a podcast episode, but I haven't found the right words that I want to say. And I'll give my baby boy a shout out. Matthew Elijah Doaty, rest in peace. But yeah, I haven't quite found the words to, put into a podcast episode, but that's coming. It's down the line.
Yeah, and I think it would be a really important and worthwhile conversation and episode, especially for the husbands, for the fathers, for those that, have experienced that loss, have tried to hold their wife down as she's coming through something that's just unspeakable, something that's tragic, something that nobody deserves. And I think, man, I'm sorry that you guys have also been through that. I know how hard it is, and I just appreciate your courage even in sharing that. That's a question that I ask really just because everybody has been through something. Everybody has overcome something. But typically people don't just come right out and bare their hearts. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, no problem, man. That's what I'm all about. That's kind of I don't know if we got a tie in here, but that's kind of part of the reason why I started my podcast, man, to have those types of conversations that we kind of have with ourselves, to just put it out there in the universe, because I know someone somewhere on the face of the earth somewhere has gone through a similar experience and may not have the words to say or need the words from someone else to keep them going. So that's kind of, that kind of leads me right into why I started my podcast.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Conversations that matter. I think that's what you do on your show. We do that here sometimes on occasion.
Well, yeah, so it's the same with me sometimes. I'm not going to act like we're going full chill. Yeah. Every episode, we got some silly stuff in there for sure.
Absolutely. And there are going to be people that hear this episode that need to hear that, life can go on. You can at least get to a place where you have peace, even with unanswered questions, even with the grief. I know, like you say, it's cliche to say, but it does get better to a degree. You always carry that grief with you, but you do learn how to manage it in a way that's healthy.
Yeah. I was going to say, you just try to take it second by second, minute by minute, and day by day. Don't try to pace yourself until you ever get over losing a child. You can't ever get over that. So, the old saying is, I know you've heard it before here in the South, the parents aren't supposed to bury the kids, aren't supposed to lose the kids, to be the other way around. Our kids are supposed to bury us. So there's never going to be any words that are going to make you just snap out of it. You just have to take it day by day. And some days are going to be worse than others. Some days are going to be better than others. But you truly have to take it second by second, minute by minute, day by day, man.
Very well said. Very well said. And there will be people that hear that need to, especially apparently in India, because that is a place that this show is listened to a lot for some weird reason.
Yes. Yes, sir.
But one thing we do on this show, we do like to talk about things that matter. We also get into silliness when it comes to the world of politics and sports and the paranormal.
Okay.
So there's no easy transition from the hard stuff that you've overcome in life, but let's dive into some of that stuff as well. How does that sound?
Sure. Let's go, man. Part of my show is kind of same thing you got going on here. It's called Cerebral Chaos, which means it's got a lot of deep introspective stuff, but it's got a lot of chaos too, and that's what I call my silliness chaos. So I'm with it. So let's rock it.
I love it. We call our listeners tools.
Okay.
Since we are in the shed, that's all I could come up with.
I see. Yeah,
it's not an insult. I think they're the sharpest tools in the shed.
Absolutely.
But so what do you make, Doaty, of? It's been in the news. It's kind of less in the news now, but the whole ordeal the last several weeks, over the last couple months, all of these Chinese spy balloons. You got all these balloons that. They just pop up in the sky. They tell us they're from China. We don't know what they're doing. We shot some of them down. Some of them that they shot down, we don't even know what they are. Are they UFOs? Did some guy in Alabama build it in his garage and let it loose? What's going on with Chinese spy balloons? Tell us, Doaty.
Man, you know what? This is the first I'm hearing of Chinese balloons.
You're kidding.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
That's probably a great thing.
Is it supposed to be where China's actually just kind of coming back for retribution for these balloons? Is that what we're getting at here?
Allegedly, they're just some sort of very, technologically advanced balloons that they floated over our country and a lot of others to gather some type of information. Maybe they're just watching us record TikTok videos. I don't know.
Well, look, I have this conspiracy theory that one day, I know we're very, very, very indebted to that country, but I used to tell my wife this funny joke about that I don't think Bruce Lee's dead. I just think that they're holding him somewhere in a cryogenic chamber and waiting until we get so far past due on our debt that where they have to just release him down on us and we're going to be in trouble. So maybe we're in the beginning stages of them trying to see how they're going to actually plan out this attack and how they're going to get it figured out.
And see, this is why we record this show, because I bring up Chinese spy balloons, and all of a sudden Bruce Lee is alive and released on our public.
Absolutely. I don't think he's dead, man. I don't see how somebody in such peak condition as he was at 35 years old just kind of drops off the face of the earth. So I don't believe that he's dead. I do think they have him on ice somewhere, and they're waiting for the right time to kind of release him like the Winter Soldier, and we're going to be in trouble.
We covered Bruce Lee's death on this show before. There was a news article that came out, a study a couple years ago that suggested that Bruce Lee might have died from drinking too much water.
Okay. I know he was a freak about water. I've actually got an episode coming about Bruce Lee and how much he wanted us to be like water. So that doesn't surprise me at all. If it actually comes out that he died from drinking too much water, I might believe that one.
It just sounds, it's like you're saying though, 35 years old, peak physical condition, world-class athlete, and he got taken out by H2O. It doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem right.
I'm not buying it. Like I said, I think he's somewhere on ice, so I'm not buying that at all.
Well, another thing that we have in common, Doaty, is that you and I both cheer for the same NBA franchise, the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry is my second favorite NBA player of all time, just barely behind Michael Jordan, who I grew up on.
Okay.
Love the Warriors. Glad that Klay Thompson is finally starting to look like Klay Thompson again.
He is.
Thought that it was probably time to pull the plug on the James Wiseman thing. Glad that they got him out of town. But the Warriors are absolutely terrible on the road this year. They've won like 8 games on the road, including last night. And they may slide down into the play-in tournament. What's going on with Golden State? Where do you think they finish? Do they actually have a chance to be contenders this year?
Man, you know what? I have a friend that actually went to Huntingdon with us, D'Angelo Hill, who I'm sure we will hear this episode at some point, who's an avid Warriors fan, so I'll give him a shout-out as well. But I have been on him for years and I like this guy, don't get me wrong, but I've just never been the biggest fan of Draymond Green. Like, I know his role is very critical to the team, but I think at some point he's reached almost that stage of where is he worth, is the on-floor production going to give you the bang for the buck for what he gives you off the court? Like, I think something is wrong with the chemistry on the team this year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is, but I would say we started off in the wrong boat with the offseason with Draymond and Jordan Poole getting fight at practice. And I just think that something hasn't been right. I mean, I didn't see it, but I was hearing about they had some other spat in a game where Draymond wanted the ball and Jordan Poole didn't give it to him, and there was a whole big thing where Draymond just kind of walked off the court. And I'm not gonna just point all the things at Draymond. I think a lot of it, like you said, it comes a time where the dynasty window has to close. I know that's unfortunate for us as fans, but I never thought they had a chance to win last year. So I'm not going to say that they aren't out, that they have no shot. I'll say if they can get out of the play-in spot, if you have a healthy Steph Curry, if you have a healthy Klay Thompson, if you have a invested Jordan Poole, I don't know what's going on with Wiggins right now, but I think if you have a healthy and whole team going into the playoffs, they're as dangerous as anybody. And I think that starts and stops with Steph Curry. But I think at some point they're going to have to make some critical decisions about the future. I mean, I don't think Draymond's going to be back. They have to decide what they want to do with Wiggins. I think at some point they have to get more youth on the team.
Right.
I know they've been kind of working towards that, but I think they have to almost embrace, hey, everybody not named Steph Curry and Klay Thompson or Jordan Poole, let's just throw him in there. We have to find young bodies because those aging vets are just going to be aging vets eventually. And I don't want them to get in this salary cap hill where they can't get out of it and put themselves in a worse spot down the line. So I get it. It's kind of tough trying to build for the future and trying to compete right now.
Yep.
I don't know if I can put my finger on it about this whole losing streak on the road because, the Warriors have always been kind of consistently great on the road.
Right.
So I'm not sure what that issue is this year. I've heard people talk about is Steve Kerr kind of losing his voice in the locker room. Maybe that could be an issue. I mean, I know after a while the coach's voice just gets dull no matter how great he is, no matter how great the players is. Sometimes you just need some fresh bodies and make a fresh coach. So I'm not sure what the actual issue is that I can pin my finger on it for. But I would say to me, if it were me and I was running the team, I think my number one is to let's figure out what we're going to do with Draymond, just because I don't like the energy that he brings the team at this point. I don't think it's kind of I don't think it's worth it at this point.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Warriors fans feel that way. There's definitely some kind of issue when it comes to camaraderie on the team this year.
They don't seem together. Yeah, they don't
No,
seem
they
as
don't.
together as they have been in the past. Not even close.
And I think that definitely shows up on the road. It's easy to get up for a home game, play where you're comfortable in front of your home crowd. A lot of it might go back to that punch in the face from Draymond to Jordan Poole. And maybe not even that it happened, but the fact that it got broadcast on every news channel.
Yeah.
That should never have gone public.
Right. How can you get over a punch in the face?
I know. Yeah.
I would say we're pretty good friends.
Yeah.
If you punch me in my face right now, I just don't know if I would be. I don't know what you could do or how much time would have to go by for me to actually get over it and not get.
You definitely wouldn't be on the podcast
especially
tonight.
if I had to work with you every day.
Yeah.
So I just don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, the Warriors got rid of key contributors from last year that were bench players, but whose role was very important. Do you think that Steph Curry is still a top 5 player in the NBA?
This year I would have to go. Talking about top 5 players, I think to me, I think Giannis is at the top spot.
Agreed.
I have to, I like Embiid, I like Joker, so I might go with that top 3, and I think after that, I would say Steph is top 5 for sure. Now at 4, I don't know if you want to go KD or LeBron, or if you want to do LeBron and Steph, or if you want to do Steph and KD. But I would say he's top 5 for sure. If not just for, impact for sure, he's definitely top 5. But
oh yeah,
he's getting on up there. But I still think he's 5. And if he's not 5, he's going to be 6.
He turned 35 years old. He's still an impact player.
Yeah.
The thing
about his game is that it's not going to age.
That's right.
As worse because he's a shooter, and he's going to be able to shoot until he's 40. So
yeah.
his game's going to age a lot slower than most others.
As long as he stays healthy, as long as he's able to continue to stay in such great shape and move without the ball, he could play as long as he wants to. Well, let me ask you this. This is how we do on this show. We're going from Chinese spy balloons to NBA basketball to conspiracy theories.
Okay.
You've already shared with us one that I had actually never heard before, that Bruce Lee is still alive, and I'm going to have to research that because that is a fun idea. What else do you have in the way of conspiracies? What is one of your favorite conspiracy theories to research, or that you actually might even believe?
Man, we talked about this kind of off the air, and a couple of my favorite that we're going to eventually hash out on my podcast is Bigfoot and UFOs. More so Bigfoot. I don't know if I believe in Bigfoot, but do I believe that there could be a Sasquatch walking around up in northern Illinois in the woods somewhere? Sure. Kind of the same thing with aliens too. I definitely believe that there are aliens on another planet, and I advise the United States to stop going to those other planets and messing with those people before we find something that we don't want to find. Like, I'm good without trying to figure out what's going on Pluto or Mercury or whatever planets that they're coming up with or getting rid of nowadays. I don't want to know what's over there. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Because I think we're going to stumble upon something that we don't want to stumble upon, and we're all going to be in trouble again.
Yeah, I think Earth is probably like the universe's world star. Maybe aliens have some type of interest in us. I don't know why. I don't know what I don't know what they want from us.
Yeah. I don't think there's any way that there's not alternative life forms out in the universe. I just don't know what would be the purpose of the other planets if there wasn't.
Yeah.
So I definitely believe that there's aliens, and again, I would advise anyone who's going to look for aliens to stop, because I think if we find them, they're probably not going to be as welcoming as E.T.
Right. Yeah, and we might wind up being colonized. That would not be fun.
Right.
Well, I got to get you hooked up with my friend. He's from Texas. His name is Bigfoot Bob. That's what I call him.
Okay.
He does a podcast all about Bigfoot called Bigfoot Club.
Really?
Yeah, he's got over 50,000 downloads on his show. It's a lot bigger than mine. He was our first guest on our show. I think episode 30-something. The first time I had a guest was Bigfoot Bob.
Oh, man, we're going to have to run that back.
Yeah.
You and Bigfoot Bob. We're going to have to run that back.
Yeah, I listened to his show, and I just sent him I slid into his DMs on Twitter and was like, hey, I have a podcast. Would you come on? And he said, I'll do it Friday. And I was blown away. I was like, wow, okay. And my wife thought I was crazy. She was like, you're talking to some guy you never met about Bigfoot for 2 hours? I said, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, do you believe in Bigfoot? Do you think that there's a Bigfoot?
Man, I'm either a skeptical believer or a believing skeptic, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I kind of go back and forth. I certainly think that there's a possibility that a creature still exists that we don't really know about in our woods, that maybe the population is very, very slim, or that used to exist and people still talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never seen anything. I don't really think a lot of the evidence is very good. Wood knocks and noises and all that. I don't care.
I was gonna say, have you ever watched any of the shows?
Oh, all the time.
When
All
they're
the
on TV,
time.
me and my wife just laugh at them.
It's hilarious.
It's always like a noise that
Yeah.
we never see. It's just like a noise or a random tree branch or something. It's like, oh my God, that's him. And I'm like, where? Where is he? Show me something.
And it cracks me up because they're always like, it sounds big. And I'm like, how?
Right.
If you've ever spent any time in the woods,
Everything sounds big.
yeah, anything running through the brush, a squirrel sounds big. It's dark and you afraid. Let's be honest. Well, tell us about your show. You host a show called Cerebral Chaos. Tell us about that show, how you came up with the idea, and what you do on that show.
Man, Cerebral Chaos is me. Like I said, I'm very thoughtful. I'm very well educated, as you know. We went to school together. But I'm also pretty wacky. I'm pretty crazy. So to me, Cerebral Chaos was me giving the world a lot of the conversations that I have with myself, with friends, with family. And like I talked about earlier, like, another thing that I like to do that's really big, that means a lot to me, is I like to have people on from different walks of life, different race, genders, ethnicities, and beliefs. And I like to celebrate success. I have a lot of successful business owners that come on and talk about how they made it from small towns. I have therapists that come on. I had a licensed therapist out of Atlanta, Georgia, who's really good friends with my wife. That came on and we had a really thought-provoking episode about mental health. And then we get crazy. So I had an episode where we talk about Dragon Ball Z, or I have an episode where we take a psychological eval of Batman as a character.
Love it.
Or I have, I can't even, I've done so many episodes, I can't even think of the ones that I've done. But, whether it be something silly or something thought-provoking, I think Cerebral Chaos is just a love letter to my soul, if that makes sense. Like, I like to have conversations about serious stuff. I like to have conversations about crazy stuff. And I like to have, I like to celebrate people who've made it. I like to celebrate people who are working through and trying to make it. And it's really just a combination of whatever's on my mind at that time. It's sort of like a working journal. And yeah, it's just, I really don't know. I don't know if there's a way you can describe it. It's just kind of silly, It's kind of in the vein as what you got going on here, where we talk about some serious stuff and then we talk about some lighthearted stuff and make it fun for people too. So whether it be, talking about what my favorite TV show is and why, and talking about movies, or, having an episode about why we should fold up clothes when we get them first out of the dryer, or like I said, going to talking about mental health. I have multiple episodes about mental health. It's really just a show for everybody. It's all encompassing. It's welcoming. It's inviting. Always motivate everybody at the beginning of the episodes with a quote of the day, and we get really deep into why we can be better as people, and how we can be better as people, and it really is just all encompassing, man.
Very cool. And I like how you describe it, a love letter to your soul. I'm going to have to listen to the episode about folding laundry right away because that is a love letter to my soul. We have a couch at our house that is it's the laundry couch, and it just it turns into Laundry Mountain, and every weekend we tackle it.
You got to go on there and check it out, man. I got some tips. I did a little research. I did a little study. So even on my silly episodes, I know we said we get silly, but I take these silly episodes serious. So
absolutely,
I really try to find out and do research on why in the world do we not like folding clothes as a people, or why in the world do people drive so terrible? I mean, it's really kind of all over the place in a good way, and I really hope to have an opportunity for some of your listeners to give it a listen. I really enjoy it. I think that they would really enjoy it too. Oh,
listen, you're about to blow up in India. We're gonna make it happen.
Absolutely. Well, good thing is I already got some footholds in India.
Okay.
India's probably my second most listened to country after the United States. So shout out to everybody in India that's listening.
Yeah,
I appreciate you, and Wes appreciates you guys.
I do. I got this guy named Ramesh. He's written into the show to our email address a few times from India, and I credit that man because he always writes in and is like, I got my brother-in-law listening, I got my cousins listening. So Ramesh is about to be your number one fan, and he's going to get Cerebral Chaos even bigger foothold over there.
Well, Ramesh, we appreciate you, buddy, and shouts out to you. I hope you become the biggest Cerebral Chaos listener as well, and
yes, sir.
We hope you become part of the Chaos family, buddy.
Yeah, and I'll check out that episode. I don't know. I think maybe we struggled to fold laundry. This is just my theory. I'm spitballing here because we have too many clothes, I think.
Yeah, I said that on the episode too. It's just me and my wife. I don't have kids like you, but for some reason I feel like there's more clothes that are washed and come out of the dryer than two people should have. I'm always like, where in the world did we get all these clothes, and why do we have so many of them, and why won't they stop?
Tell me about it. I think if back in the day, you just had one week's worth of clothes. You had your one nice outfit. You washed it every day or two. It was simpler times, and
yeah, maybe it's a buyer issue. Maybe we buy too many clothes as a people.
Absolutely. Well, one thing I really enjoy about your show, I really like the interviews that you do. The sound quality is good. You ask really thoughtful questions and you have good discussion. Who are some of the people, you've already talked about a few, but who are some of the people that you've had on your show, and what are a couple of your favorite episodes?
Oh, man. Let's do this. So I don't want to single out anyone. I love all of my guests. I haven't had that many, so I'll go through all of them kind of briefly. So I'm trying to go back through my episode log here. So the first guest I had on was a great friend of mine, Ryan Dean, who also graduated from Huntingdon College as well.
Hawcom.
He's a music teacher. He's down in Uriah, Alabama, which is close to me down here in Mobile, Alabama. Mm-hmm. He has Dean's List Music Academy, and where he tries to give music lessons to impoverished youth who maybe can't afford the high-end music lessons that have a will and want to learn.
Very cool.
I had him come on as my first guest, and it was one of my more listened to episodes. So big ups to him. Shout out to him. I had an episode entitled Wine and Jesus, where I sat down with a really good friend of mine, Christina Quick, who was the nicest person I met when I moved down to this area.
Yeah.
We had a conversation about, she works at Provision over in Fairhope, Alabama down here, and she's sort of a wine connoisseur. And we sat down and had a conversation on site at her, at the location, and we talked about
very cool
wine, and we talked about Jesus. In the second season, I had just talked about Ryan Dean, his girlfriend. Her name's actually Justila Simpson. I had her come on, and she talked about body issues. She works through, some body issues as a young woman, and grew up, and she's now a curvy model ambassador. So she's a plus size model who worked her way through having body issues into becoming someone who people now pay to advertise to wear their clothes.
Wow.
So that's another story where I was talking about. We talk about how people go through something and they come out on the back end. I had another episode where a young man, Justin Harris, who I went to high school with, came on. He was in the military, and he talked about some of his issues dealing with PTSD.
Yeah.
How he works through PTSD and became a better man through getting in the military. Dollars and Cents was another good one where I had Joaquin Dean, who's the brother of Ryan, who I talked about earlier, also another Huntingdon College alum.
I remember Joaquin.
He came on, and he's a financial advisor, and I really wanted him to come on and talk about the benefits of having a financial plan, having life insurance, that kind of stuff. I had another young man, Duke the Guitarist, who's a really good, great guitar player down here in the area in South Alabama. He came on and talked about his story and how he became to be so great like he is now. He's been on The Voice. He's been on American Idol. I mean, he's been all over the place playing with people. Gift Gab, that was with my boy Dalen, who you know as well.
Yeah.
Went to Huntingdon College. So Huntingdon College is getting a lot of pub on this episode. So
I love
if anybody from Huntingdon College is here, all this, you need to, give me some ends down here this way for plugging Huntingdon College.
Check out Cerebral Chaos. Huntingdon College, check it out.
Oh, yes, absolutely. If anybody from there is listening, make sure you check out Cerebral Chaos. And like I said, you got a few ends you want to kick down this way as well, I'll take that as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Dalen is my closest friend in the entire world. He married me and my wife. He's a pastor.
Very cool.
We talked about his journey coming up as a young 12-year-old kid and realizing that pastoring is something that he wanted to do and preaching is something that he wanted to do with his life. So we talked about his struggles. We talked about his journey coming into being a man who had to, quote unquote, live life differently because he was a preacher from the age of 12. And we did a bit of a two-parter. We talked about that, and then we talked about some silliness in our relationship. We talked about our first time meeting at Huntingdon College and not quite being sure we would like each other and how we came to be, great friends, man. So
yeah,
I'm trying to see if I missed anybody. I know I may be a little long-winded, but like I said, I want to make sure everybody gets their pub. I had Cordero Millender, who's a business owner in Montgomery, who owns about 5 or 6 businesses. Came on the podcast as well. He's from a small town down here called Frisco City, Alabama.
Frisco City.
He came on to talk about his journey growing up in Frisco and his determination, his drive to become a multi-millionaire business owner who has 5, 6 plus businesses in Montgomery that are booming and that are doing really well. And the last one of the most recent guests I had come on, man, was Dr. Saunders, who you know very well. You and I both did his communication course again at Huntingdon College. But we talked a little bit about his journey. We talked a little bit about rhetoric, which was such a big deal to him.
Oh yeah.
And I talked a lot about the impact that he had on my life and kind of shaping me into finding myself in communications and being able to talk and kind of express myself and do some of what we're doing, diving into stuff for deeper 3, 4, 5, 6 layers kind of deal. So just wanted to shout out everybody who's come on to the podcast and helped make it such a success. You know how important good guests are, and you know how that works as well. So I didn't want to single anybody out, but I wanted to talk about each one of them individually. As far as a favorite episode, the one that meant the most to me initially was my first mental health episode. I think it was about my 4th episode. And I really, really, wanted to set the tone on what the podcast was going to be with that episode because, I mean, we've talked about it so much and we hear it so much, but mental health is really, really, really important nowadays.
For sure.
We got so much going on with technology and just the days we live and the lives we live and social media, and it's just so much going on, and there's just so many people that are down that don't have to be, man. And that episode really meant a lot to me because I had to be vulnerable and admit that I've had self-esteem issues, that I've had issues, with mental health before. So that one was a really, really close one to my heart, man. And another one, oh God, you have to back this up. I forgot to mention my wife came on 2 episodes.
Yeah, you
and
in
I
trouble.
didn't mention her. She did an episode with me. She has a small business called Magnificent Delights where we make all natural dog treats.
Very cool.
And she came on the first time and talked a little bit about how she came to, realize that's what she wanted to do, how important it is to her, and just some of the things that a small business owner has to go through. My God, I forgot to mention Kendra Thomas, who's the licensed LP therapist out in Georgia, who came on and did another mental health episode with me. But that mental health episode was really big for me, and I would say I had a lot of fun going through my Do the Right Thing episode was another one for me too. So I would say the Health Warning episode sticks out. The Do the Right Thing episode sticks out, where I just talked about, we as people, we have to do better. It wasn't really a soapbox episode, but just talking about, we know better. We should do better. I don't know why we choose to be so mean and kind of ugly to each other, but there are instances where we can be so great as a people, as Americans, as whatever you want to say. We've shown so many instances in the past where how we can come together as a people and just be awesome and make the world awesome, and we should do more than that.
I love it. Yeah. And that's something
one
that
more
we...
shout out to my boy Clark Tucker, who also did an episode where we came on and talked about wrestling. That was another good one for me too.
Cool.
I'm a big wrestling fan.
Cool. Yeah, and that's something that we say on this show, I've said it several times, is that quote that I love: the best critique of the poor is the practice of the better.
Right.
So a lot of times, we like to downgrade those who aren't behaving like they should, or who aren't living like they should, or who we disagree with about whatever topic or issue. And really, a lot of times, the thing that we should do instead of downgrading that person is to just show a better way, to do better with our choices, with our lifestyle, with our even the way that we treat people. So I love that you touched on that.
And I think another thing we have to do, man, and I hate to kind of belliger this topic, but we have to just kind of first be compassionate to people and understand that our way is not the only way, or our beliefs are not the only beliefs.
Right.
So just compassion and respect are two things that I would say we just really have to do better with as a people. I'm not on the soapbox. Great people. I know great people. It's not everybody, but we know the minority are the loudest ones. So we have to really do better as a people with just understanding that people can think different from us. People can believe different from us and be different from us, and that still be okay.
Yeah.
You and I can have separate beliefs on several levels, and we can still be okay with each other. We don't have to dislike each other because we like different things.
So we could disagree on Bigfoot. We could disagree on politics, or even on whether or not Bruce Lee is still alive.
Right. And we're still gonna be good.
You have a very eclectic show. You have all kinds of people on. I think that's one of the strengths of your show. Personally, I just really enjoy that you have had multiple conversations about the importance of mental health.
Right.
We both went to Huntingdon College, a small liberal arts school in Montgomery. We both were a part of the communication studies program there. I did a victory lap. I did 4 full years, and then I since I was a double major, I had one more semester to go. And that last semester for me was very difficult. I never was a straight A student in college, but I always had good grades. And then that last semester, I really went through a bout of depression, and it was bad. I wasn't going out. I wasn't seeing people. Wasn't hanging out with friends. Was not responding to calls or texts from family members. I was in a dark place. Really felt like I was sinking, and I didn't go to class for I think 31 days straight.
Wow.
And I mean any class. And so my grades were bad. I had failing grades in every class. It didn't look like that I would even graduate. And finally, my father just showed up at my apartment and just knocked on the door. I see your truck. It's parked here. Let me in. And you know how it is. I was embarrassed. My apartment was a mess. I wasn't making good choices. But, I didn't have a choice. Dad paid for the apartment, let Dad in the apartment, and he just said, "What's going on? What's happening?" And that was the first time that I'd ever vocalized out loud that something is happening inside of me that is not healthy. And it was the only time that I'd ever experienced that level of depression. And I didn't know how to handle it, how to tackle it, what to do with it. And I just told my dad for the first time, I feel like I'm sinking. I don't know what's happening. I'm not happy. I'm struggling. I can't get out of bed and get stuff done. I haven't been going to class. I may not graduate, which was all news to him. And to his credit, he said, you know what, we're going to be okay. I'm going to go with you. We're going to go to every one of your professors. We're going to talk to them, explain what's going on, just be honest and see what we can do. And so I did. And thankfully, since we went to a small school, our professors, for the most part, were people who were compassionate. They were people that wanted their students to succeed. And they gave me a plan. They gave me a plan to follow, a way to catch up, a way to make up work. They worked with me, especially a professor that you had on your show. And that was the head of our department, Dr. John Saunders. Someone that you referred to as a mentor. Dr. Saunders is one of the main reasons I graduated college. That man hung in there with me when he had no reason to. I had not turned in papers. I had not done work. I had missed assignments. And he made a way. He stuck with me. He said, I'm sorry you're dealing with this. I know that you're intelligent. I know that you care. I know that you're smart. I'm going to help you. We're going to get through this. And I graduated. I got every grade up to passing, mostly B's, a few C's. Graduated college, got my degree. And it was because I had a father that hung in there with me, and because I had a list of professors, chief of which was Dr. John Saunders, who just said, this is okay. This is a part of life. This doesn't define you. You can overcome this. So, the fact that you have talked about mental health on your podcast is tremendous. And also the fact that you had Dr. Saunders on your show, I thought was amazing as well.
Yeah, man, I think the biggest thing about depression is, you learned, and, I dealt with a similar situation when I got to Huntingdon. I kind of felt like a fish out of water. My family and I had just moved down from Louisiana in 2006, and here I am in 2008, going to Montgomery, Alabama, a place I had never really been before, around people I never really knew in a place that I was unfamiliar with. And I just didn't know how to really find my footing. I think the biggest thing that you mentioned about depression is you have to be able to admit that there's an issue. And another thing that you said that Dr. Saunders said, that it's okay. Like, I think the biggest part of voicing that you're not okay is it's okay that you're not okay. It's a part of life. And no matter what anybody may say, we've all had thoughts of depression. We've all had thoughts of not feeling like we know who we are or where we belong or what our kind of thing in life is. And I think the biggest thing you have to realize is, like you said, like, it's a part of life. And I think a big thing that I harped on in that mental health episode, the whole section that we talked about, was like, it's okay to not be okay. Like, it's really okay to say, how you doing today? And like, hey, I'm not having a great day, because one, voicing it really kind of brings about, how can we fix this issue? Because a lot of times people don't know if you don't say anything. And there are people out there, like you said, all these professors that were willing to help you that you would have never known about if you would have just assumed that they didn't care, or assumed that nobody's going to give a crap that you having a bad time. But there's people out there that really are willing and able and ready to help you through whatever issues that you're having. So I always think I really try to have at least one mental health episode every season. That's going to be like a dedication of mine, because I've been through it. You've been through it. We know people that have been through it. We know people that are going through it that didn't make it through it. And we know people that are struggling with it right now, but having a tough time. So I really think it's that important for me to continue to push the envelope on, let's be vulnerable, let's admit when things are not going well, and let's work through this. We can get through this. Generally, nothing that's going on is the end of the world. It's just, how do we deal with whatever that issue is, and how can we work through it is the biggest thing. So I'm big on it, man, and I'm going to continue kind of tooting the horn for making sure people know that they can talk to people, making sure they have outlets, making sure I'm available as an outlet through the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's really important, man.
Yeah, and for me at least, I think that just like you say, just vocalizing and breaking the seal, just telling somebody. It starts with just telling somebody. Somebody doesn't have to know everything about your life, but there has to be somebody that does know everything, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so to break the seal and say, hey, I'm struggling, that's what kicks off the road to healing. And then, a lot of times I think when it comes to issues like depression, we try to treat just one facet of it. And so we try to fix our habits, or we try to treat the chemical imbalance in our brain. And at least for me, I had to address it on all levels. It was affecting me, mind, body, and spirit. And so I didn't really experience healing until I addressed the physical side of things, addressed the mental side of things, addressed the spiritual side of things. When I took it on from all aspects of life, that's when I really started to experience freedom again. Have you experienced that as well?
Oh, heck yeah, man. I mean, you really, like say, we talked about it again earlier, through those tough times, you kind of find yourself more. And I think one of the goals should be you almost kind of fall in love with yourself. You kind of learn yourself. You kind of figure out how you react in these tough times and how you can work through these tough times. And you take keys and cues from all of these situations that come on you that help make you better. I mean, I think you would agree that your darkest time almost helped develop you for everything else in life, because you almost have to figure out, find your way, find your footing in that situation. And it's just tools in your tool belt. And talking about the shed here, it's tools in your tool belt to deal with difficult situations in life. And they don't stop. I mean, you get through one situation and then something else comes. It's just kind of a part of life.
Yeah.
You just have to learn how to compartmentalize it, how to deal with it. Find you an outlet, whatever it be. Some people have physical, where they go, you got to go in the gym and lift weights, or you got to punch a punching bag, or some people have to read, or I'm sure like me and you, we have to do a podcast or get an episode out, or whatever it may be. But just find that thing that really helps you get through that situation. Have really good people in your circle. If you don't have really good people in your circle, there are people that are willing to help you. I mean, there's 1-800 numbers out there everywhere. There's suicide hotlines, and there's, doctors, and there's people that can help. So don't feel like just because you go to one person and they don't have the answer that nobody cares or nobody can help you. There's always ways of seeking and finding help through situations like that.
Absolutely. Very cool that you're taking that stand, addressing that on your show. I love that. You've put out 37 episodes so far, if my math is correct. I've listened to about 15. I'm working my way through your catalog. My favorite episode so far, I really enjoyed the Wine and Jesus episode. That was just so much fun. It was such a lighthearted. I mean, what was the lady's name on the episode?
Christina, man, and she is an angel.
Her kindness just shines through.
She's one of the sweetest people that I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah, and I love that she talked about faith, but she's not someone that fits into a cookie cutter.
Absolutely.
She is her own person, and she makes it known that you can be your own person and still have a relationship with a higher being. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I knew that was her personality. Obviously, I knew her, so that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have her on, because there are different. There's not one way of being a Christian or a religion. Like you can enjoy wine and still be a Christian. Like we get this false notion that anybody who's drinking or is a drunkard, or anybody who likes to indulge in wine, they're not a true Christian. I mean, we have this hypersensitivity in religion where sometimes we kind of are too religious, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we forget at the end of the day that we're still people. We're imperfect. We're working towards, being perfect people. And you listen to the episode. She's not encouraging anybody to go out and just drink yourself crazy. But wine is a natural resource that was put here from the grapes, by the man above. So it's not a bad thing either. So I really enjoyed having her on.
Yeah.
She's such a great person. I'm glad you could see her personality through that episode.
Yeah, and she's someone that's passionate. She's somebody that really knows her stuff, so that was a fun listen. Another episode I really enjoyed, which you already gave a shout-out to, was your episode, the two-parter with Dalen, who also went to Huntingdon College. And to me, what was so much fun about that episode was the fact that you guys have been friends forever. And so your friendship just kind of shone through in a very natural way in your dialogue. And that was a lot of fun as a listener as well.
Man, he, like I said, he's the greatest friend I've ever had. We actually, I'll give your listeners a little bit of a brief kind of background of how we met. We were both at Huntingdon College. Huntingdon College is PWI. We both were African-American men. I think we were a minority, not only kind of going to Huntingdon College, but we were maybe, I don't ever remember any other, black male in our communications studies program. Maybe one other guy. I think
you guys might have been it.
Maybe one other guy.
Y'all might have been it.
So we were kind of in each other's circle, but not in each other's circle. Like I would see him, he would see me. We really wouldn't engage with each other. We just like, hey, there's another black guy in the comm studies major, and kind of keep it moving. Until I did a speech one day on the Boondocks, which we both happen to be avid fans of.
Love that show.
And after I gave a speech, he came up to me and was like, oh my God, I didn't know you had that in you. And I was like, well, what were you saying I was dumb? Like that was the basis of us kind of starting our friendship, man. And
that's
like
funny.
I said, he's been the greatest friend in the world to me. He married me and my wife. He's also a fellow podcaster. I'll do him a plug. He has his own podcast called The Gift of Gabcast, which is really awesome. He's not far along as you and I in episodes, but he's really got some really wacky episodes. He's got a church candy episode. He's got an episode talking about the Angel in Memphis is my favorite episode, where he was traveling to Memphis and his car broke down and he met this guy, a stranger, who literally bent over backwards 17 ways to help him out.
Wow.
And they're really good friends now.
No kidding.
But he was stuck in traffic, and the guy, ran back and forth to Lowe's 4 or 5 times to try to find tools to help him out, and was trying to work on his car and was trying to give him, all the assistance basically that he could. And he didn't know the guy from, anybody.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of him realizing that, like we talked about earlier, no matter what they tell you in the news and all this kind of stuff, there's still awesome people out there in the world. But yeah,
sure.
Dalen is my best friend, man. I've got some stuff coming up with him on this season 3. We're gonna have a hip hop episode.
Very
both
cool.
hip hop avid fans.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna do another episode talking about Billie Holiday's "Strange Fruit," and another episode about a song called "The Charade" by D'Angelo. Kind of on a similar wavelength as "Strange Fruit." But we're really going to kind of examine those 2 songs and the impact and the words and what they mean to us and kind of how they impact the culture. But yeah, man, he's an amazing guy. Go listen to his podcast. Check him out on mine. I mean, once you hear him talk, you'll fall in love with him. So
yeah,
that's him.
I look forward to that Billy Holiday episode.
Yes, sir.
Put that education to use. That will be phenomenal content for sure.
Absolutely.
The other episode I really enjoyed was one of the latest, which was when you had the professor that we've already talked about, Dr. John Saunders, on. That was just cool because we took all of those classes with him. He was our instructor, and then to kind of flip the script and see you interviewing him and him sharing his story. That was just refreshing for me as somebody that knows you both.
Right. The thing that one meant a lot to me as well. Like I said, you already talked about how big of a mentor he was to the both of us. The impact he had on you, helping shape your life and helping you get through one of the darkest times in your life. I mean, he's such an amazing teacher, an amazing person overall.
Yeah.
And I really don't think he understands the impact that he has on his students. And I really wanted to kind of make the episode more of a thanks to him, an homage to him, to say, dude, you really, I mean, you really impacted my life in ways I don't think you understand. So yeah, I mean, when you think about it from like that, I never even really thought of it from their perspective. I just really wanted to give him his flowers because I knew how important he was to the things that I do on my podcast and in my life, with rhetoric and looking at text and finding deeper meanings and examining speeches. And he just really brought out a light bulb in me that I still use to this day. That's kind of a part of things I do in my everyday life and things that are critical to my podcast and things that I'm passionate about. So I really wanted to give him his flowers and tell him thank you for the impact that he's had on me, man.
Yeah, and I think two of my favorite classes I had at Huntingdon were his classes. One was an independent study I did with him on the rhetoric of MLK, and we just looked at individual speeches that Martin Luther King Jr. gave, talked about the meaning, the political atmosphere at the time, the cultural context. That class was so thought-provoking and so enlightening and so challenging on many levels. And then the other class was the rhetoric of Disney. Did you take that class?
I did. We took that one together.
I thought so. That was a night class, and
it was once a week, like on a Thursday night at like 6 o'clock. Yeah, something weird.
And
it was a weird one-nighter.
I thought it was going to be one of the easier classes because we just were going to watch Disney movies. And it really wasn't. It was you watch a Disney movie a week, and then you have 1 week to put together like a 5-page paper, analyzing it rhetorically, and then you pass that paper to everybody in the class, and they dissect it. It was challenging.
And the thing that I loved about that class, and I told him when he came on, was the discourse that he allowed. Because, I mean, you can remember we had some uncomfortable conversations. You know, I remember watching, I think the first one we may have watched was Song of the South.
Yep.
With Uncle Remus. And it really brought about some uncomfortable conversations. And I told him in the episode, I said, I don't know if you knew how ahead of the game you were, because a lot of times people try to duck those conversations and, in a sense, worry about people feeling to a detriment to where we can't have the open discourse.
Yeah.
And I like that he always provided that platform for us to go back and forth, and it never, ever got out of hand. No one was never, ever disrespectful or, demeaning or anything like that at all. But it was open dialogue to say, I think it's this, and no, I think it's this because I have a different perspective. And no, I even think it's even different than that. Like, that was so thought-provoking, and it brought so much out of us, and we didn't even understand what we were learning at the time. It was, the course really wasn't about Disney movies.
No.
It was, in a sense, but it was about much more than that. And I think by the time we got to the end of the course, it started to come together like, wow, like you said, you thought it was going to be just watching Disney movies. It turned out to be a lot more.
Yeah. And it makes it difficult as a parent when you have little ones, because I'll be showing them Disney movies and I'm like, okay, so what's really happening here? And my wife would just give me that look, like, not now.
Yeah, I haven't had that. I don't have that because, well, I ain't gonna say I don't have that, but I do it with my wife.
Yeah.
And she isn't as great a listener in that kind of thing. She wants me to shut up and just watch it.
It's like, dude, we're watching Cinderella. Chill out,
Right.
Well, Doaty, something that we always do when we have a guest on the show is we always play a game that we have made up on this show. I actually saw it pop up somewhere else, and I don't know if they had a similar idea or if they jocked it from us. But we play a game called Cap or Dap.
Okay.
Just a way to get to know our guests a little bit better. The way that it works is I will give you a statement. If you agree with that statement, you will say dap, like, give me some dap, fist bump action. If you think that statement is untrue, you will label it as cap, and then feel free to explain why you feel whether that's true or not, cap or dap. Would you like to play?
Yes, sir.
All right, the first one, cap or dap. Sushi is good.
Oh, I'm going to go cap on that one. I don't like raw fish at all, so I'm definitely not down with the sushi. Most I'll do is California roll, which is like imitation crab, cream cheese. But as far as the raw fish is concerned, I'm definitely cap on that.
See, I'm a dap on that one. I didn't eat sushi until I got married. My wife is big into it, and slowly I have come around. And I still mostly eat cooked stuff, but I'll eat some raw stuff here and there now.
Nah, you had that one.
not a sushi fan.
No, sir.
This one we've already talked about a little bit, but Cap or Dap, Bigfoot is real.
Whew. Gun to my head, I'm gonna say Dap.
Okay.
But mild Dap. I just think that there's something out there. Just has to be something out there in the woods that we don't know about. Just because I feel like we don't know about everything in nature.
Yeah.
So I think there's something out there. Is it a Sasquatch or Bigfoot? Who knows? But it wouldn't surprise me at all. So I'm gonna go medium Dap.
Yeah, if I had to pick, I would say Dap. But I mean, it's like for me, it's 51-49. Like it's close.
Like what degree Bigfoot is at? I think there's something out there, but it may not be some 8-foot tall, hairy person walking around out there.
Yeah, it may not be what we think it is.
Yeah.
But I'll say by the slimmest margins, Dap. I read a book this year called Sasquatch Legend Meets Science. I think that's what it was called. And
okay.
It's by a guy who is a professor at Idaho State University, and his specialty is studying feet. So he actually looks at Bigfoot footprints, and he says that scientifically, when you analyze the impressions given by the feet, that they're very clearly real and basically impossible to be faked. That they're not human. They're not something you could do on your own. So I thought that was very interesting. That's enough to at least push me to like 51% on the DAP side.
Do you know if this guy gets paid to examine footprints?
I believe so.
I want that job.
That's a good job. You can't beat that. Cap or Dap, Joel Embiid is this year's NBA MVP.
Ooh, man, I think it's his time. But the biggest thing I think about like MVP trophies is like the narrative. So
yeah.
I'm gonna go Cap. I think Joker's gonna win 3 in a row just because it's a good story. Not that he's a terrible player. I think he's definitely. I had him in my top 3 players in the NBA. But Joel Embiid is definitely deserving. Like, if he won, would I be surprised? No. But do I think he's gonna win? No. So I'm gonna go Cap.
Yeah, I'll take Cap too on that one. I got Giannis. I think, I think Giannis has had just as good a year as the Joker and as Embiid, and I think that his team is better than those two teams.
Well, the thing about Giannis is that we got fatigue with Giannis because Giannis can go give you 35, 20, and 11, and it's just like, well, that's just Giannis.
Yep. Yep.
Like, we had never really seen, or it's been a while, maybe since like DeMontis Sabonis, since we've seen a big man, or the Gasol brothers were in their prime, but I don't think to the degree we've ever seen a big man that has the passing IQ like Joker. So it's something new, and even with Joel Embiid, we've never seen a 7-foot, 300-pound guy that can hit you from everywhere on the floor. He can obviously score back to the basket. He can hit the mid-range. He's an excellent 80% free throw shooter for 7 foot tall, and he can shoot threes at 7 foot tall, 300 pounds.
Right.
So that's like the thing we've never seen. But we've seen Giannis be Giannis for like the last 6 or 7 years, to where I think there is definitely fatigue to where. Is Giannis putting up MVP numbers? Absolutely. But I think he won't ever get the credit because he always puts up MVP numbers.
Yeah, that's fair. And like you said, I would not be surprised if Embiid wins. I think people don't want Joker to win 3 years in a row. Embiid certainly has numbers. He's obviously a top 5 to 7 player wherever you have him in the league. But I don't know. I'm just going to put it on Giannis and see what happens.
Okay. Yeah, I can't be mad at that. I love Giannis.
Yeah. This one is for you since you are from Louisiana originally. Cap or Dap, Derek Carr takes the Saints to the playoffs this season.
I think so, man. I'm a huge Lamar Jackson fan. I was hoping that we would try to make a play on Lamar.
Should have.
I don't know what's going on with that with the contract situation. I would have loved to talk about that a little bit more.
It's collusion is what it is.
But I think so too. Not to get off topic, but I just find it highly, highly suspect that a 26-year-old former MVP is having trouble getting the contract that he wants. I just don't buy that at all. Is it collusion? Probably. Can you prove it? Not really. But I do think the NFL is, and I'm not trying to make it, this is not a race thing here, obviously, but I do think the NFL is trying to make a statement on the guaranteed money with quarterbacks. I think they're trying to put a cap on it. I don't think Lamar doesn't have a contract because he's black or anything like that, but I think that the NFL owners are trying to get control back, and they understand that quarterback is the one that has all the control, and they're just putting the line in the sand with Lamar saying, no, we're not going to give you $200 million guaranteed because we don't give people $200 million guaranteed. But I think he's definitely worth it. I would have loved for the Saints to go all out on him because I've been that big a fan of him since he was in college. But I think Derek Carr, I look at it like this. The Saints were a 7-win team last year, I think. Do I think Derek Carr can get you a couple of more wins? I do. I think he's a drastic improvement over Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston. So I'm gonna go Dap. He's gonna have us in the playoffs, and I think if we can really, if Olave can take the next step, if Michael Thomas can be 75% of what he was when he decided to play 2 years ago, I really think the Saints can make some noise. So I'm actually going to predict them to be in the Super Bowl this year. So
Super
I don't know
Bowl.
if they're going to be there, but I'm going to predict them to be in the Super Bowl. I'm going New Orleans versus Cincinnati.
That's a fan.
Super early preview.
That's a fan right there.
Yes.
I'm gonna go Dap too. I think Derek Carr is an above average NFL quarterback.
I do.
He's going to be playing on a team that has a good defense, a lot more stable situation than in Las Vegas. And plus, you have to look at the division they play in. I don't expect very much out of Carolina. Tom Brady has retired, and they replaced him with Baker Mayfield. So, yeah, they're not much of a threat, maybe. And then who else is in that division? Who
Don't forget about the Falcons, who are trash.
The Falcons. The Falcons.
And the Panthers, because they were the two teams that were running like full speed when Lamar became available. Like, we're not interested. And I'm like, well, who cares that you're not interested? Your teams are not interested in winning. Like Atlanta, you had Marcus Mariota at quarterback last year, and you signed Taylor Heineke from the Washington Commanders. You're not interested in winning.
No.
In Carolina, oh my God, the quarterback carousel has been going on over there. Traded away the best player in Christian McCaffrey. Didn't hire a coach that almost had them in the playoffs this year. They're a very, very sucky team. You're not trying to win either, so I don't really care what Carolina and Atlanta are trying to do.
Yeah, and I think Lamar Jackson either ends up back with Baltimore and they get something worked out, or I look for him to go to a team like the Indianapolis Colts, maybe.
Man, I think Washington to me is the fit. I think they need a quarterback. I know they signed Jacoby Brissett, but Jacoby's obviously not Lamar Jackson.
No, he's a backup.
I think he's there in the area in the DMV. I like their squad aside from the quarterback. So if I'm Washington, I'm trying to make that marriage work. They have weapons. I like Terry McLaurin. I like the rookie Dotson that they got. I like Curtis Samuel. I like both of the running backs, Robinson from Alabama and Antonio Gibson. They have a decent line. I love Chase Young on the defensive side. They got a really good defense. Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. I mean, they got a really good squad. So I think them like pushing all the chips to the table and getting Lamar would definitely make them Super Bowl contenders. I
could vibe with that. I think he'd do really well there. They definitely have a need for quarterback, and he would fit the bill for sure. Cap or Dap, J. Cole is better than Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, no. This is all Cap. And this is no diss to J. Cole. I think Jermaine is one of the top 10 most talented lyricists to ever be born on the face of the earth. But Kendrick is on my Mount Rushmore. And when you do these discussions in hip-hop that are so competitive, you taking away from J. Cole to make Kendrick Lamar better, and that's not what I think. Again, I think they're both two of the top 10 most talented guys to ever spit on the mic. They're both are legendary. I just vibe with Kendrick Lamar more. I was on Kendrick a little earlier than I was with J. Cole, but they're both phenomenal. I think they're both pioneers of our generation as far as hip hop is concerned. But I'm gonna roll with Dot. And I had the pleasure of actually seeing him live in New Orleans last year.
Oh, really?
And it was a ball. Yeah.
I bet that was a good show.
Man, I never thought I'd have a chance to see him, and he came to New Orleans last year in August or September, and we drove over there. It's about a 2-hour drive from us, and I had the time of my life. So I'm gonna go Cap, but not in a disrespectful way to J. Cole at all.
Well, I hate to disagree with the guest, but I'm gonna go with Dap.
Well, look, I can't blame you. Like, Dalen is a avid J. Cole guy, and he's on the same level that Cole is just a tick above Kendrick Lamar for him, and I can't be mad at you. Now, if you tell me anybody else, not named maybe Drake, I'm not gonna take you serious. But I think those two stand apart from everyone else in the last 10 to 15 years in hip hop.
It's definitely close. I think Kendrick, what he does better is put together a full album, and I think that he's a more natural storyteller than J. Cole. But my personal preference, I like J. Cole's delivery and his cadence and his voice a little bit better than I do Kendrick's. And if I'm just looking at individual song, if I put up Middle Child, I don't think Kendrick has anything that I would rather hear more than Middle Child.
Oh man,
so
I highly disagree.
What do you like better than Middle Child?
You got Don't Kill My Vibe. You got We Gonna Be Alright.
Okay, I do like that one. I do like that
Money
one.
Trees. I mean, I could go down the list on Kendrick. You got the Backstreet Freestyle on Good Kid, Mad City. The Martin Had a Dream. I mean,
that whole list you like better than Middle Child.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Now
man.
it ain't again. It's not no diss to J. Cole, but I mean, Middle Child's probably not my favorite J. Cole song.
Yeah. Well, if I thought about it, I might come up with one that I like better. But if I'm being real, that's the one that I bump the most when I'm in my Chevy. So.
Oh, I can't. I ain't gonna blame you for bumping that song. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
That's an awesome song. It's just not like my favorite J. Cole song.
And
I'd take like No Role Models or maybe something off Sideline Stories as my favorite J. Cole stuff.
And I do have to say, We Gonna Be Alright. Yeah, you're right. That one's up there.
That was an anthem, bro.
That one's up there. That one had a cultural impact right there. So, but I will say, J. Cole performing Middle Child at the NBA All-Star Game a few years ago was top tier.
Oh yeah. Like I said, you can't take nothing away from Jermaine. Jermaine is a GOAT. Like, they're both GOATed. It's just, do you like Coke or you like Pepsi?
Right.
It's one of those discussions.
Definitely Coke. Pepsi's mid. Pepsi's very mid.
Man, I like the sweetness of Pepsi.
Oh my gosh.
I like that acid in Coke every now and then.
Oh, brother.
It's just
hard. See, I go through the drive-thru and they say, I say, let me get a Coke with that, and they say, is Pepsi all right? And I say, yeah, it's just all right. That's what I say.
Yeah, that's how my wife is. She does not. She's Sprite, so she don't want no Sierra Mist or other lemon drink replacement.
That's funny. Cap or Dap, you have seen the movie Cocaine Bear?
No, but you know what? It's on my list, man.
Is it?
I'm an avid movie watcher. Another plug for my podcast. I did a Diary of a Cinephile episode where I talked about, I don't know if it's top 5 or top 10, but I did a list of best movies of all time to me. I think it's top 10. So I'm somebody that's, if I could live in a movie theater, I would live there.
Yeah.
The last movie we saw was Creed 3. There's a really kind of awesome theater in Mobile here that we go to that's like someone's basement setup. So there's
cool.
like 15 intimate chairs that are all leather, reclining chairs. It's actually called Nexus. It's called Nexus Cinema Dining.
Okay.
So it's really small, intimate. It's like 15 to 20 chairs tops. All leather, laid-back recliners that you can get all the way back and put your feet up. And it's a restaurant attached to this movie theater. So you place food on an iPad, and they bring it to you.
I'm all over it.
Anything to sit down and watch the movie. They bring you food, they bring you drinks. And I'm talking about food. I ain't talking about just popcorn. No, they got steaks, they got chicken wings, they got, jalapeno poppers. Like, they got restaurant type food.
I'm all about that.
Yeah, we wanted to go and do Cocaine Bear, but you know what? It came out on Amazon Prime the other day to purchase, and it's like $24 to just buy it. So I'll probably just buy it. I've heard some good things about it, but I'm definitely going to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So I got to say Cap, but I'm going to see it.
Yeah, I say Cap too, but it is on my list just because of how over the top silly it is. I enjoy a good like horror comedy, like one that kind of is on that borderline. I like those movies.
Yeah.
And I want to see Creed. I haven't seen the new Creed movie, but I definitely want to get out and see it as well.
It's pretty good. Now I got to ask you a question before we continue the game, just because I want to see what you head.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie all time?
Oh, favorite movie all time. Are we talking about the movie that I think was the best, or just my personal favorite?
Well, give me your favorite movie of all time, then give me the movie you think is best, and then we'll get back to it. And I'll give you mine.
You gonna hate any answer I give you?
No, I'm not.
Let me give you like 4 or 5. That would be in my personal top 5.
Out, but go ahead.
So, and I'm not saying these are the best ever. These are my personal movies that I'll just.
What you got?
The Lion King.
Okay. Can't blame you.
I just like The Lion King. White Men Can't Jump.
Okay, good one. It's a classic.
Remember the Titans.
Classic.
Probably go with 8 Mile.
Classic. Yeah,
And-
all those are classics. I got nothing wrong with those.
And probably the first Godfather.
Okay, there you go. So, on my Diary of a Cinephile episode, I did say Godfather was the greatest movie that I've ever seen. Godfather 1 and 2 are almost like one movie to me.
They are.
And Dalen brought this up when he was on my pod that it almost should have been like Godfather 1.5.
Yeah,
instead
true.
of Godfather 2. The Godfather was my number one movie that I think is the best movie ever. My favorite movie ever to watch is probably a tie between Inception and The Dark Knight. So
okay, Inception. I thought Inception was great.
Movies, though.
Yeah, I loved Inception. Dark Knight I enjoyed. I think I would have enjoyed it more had it not been so popular, because I have a tendency when people just think that something is just over the top phenomenal. I'm like, it was all right. I don't want to be a snob. I try not to be, but I got to fight against it.
Yeah. But you can't deny Heath Ledger in that movie.
Phenomenal.
So sad to say we lost him to that role, but he's just undeniable.
Oh, his talent was just incredible.
Yep.
The 2 movies that I would list if I made a full top 10 of personal favorite movies that would get me the most ridicule, Dodgeball and The Great Mouse Detective.
Wow. The list is all over the place.
It
but
is.
You know what? The thing about movies is that's what movies can do. I mean, I can watch a movie and think it sucks, and you can watch it and it do something different to you. And I think that's the power of movies.
I mean, I would not make the argument that Dodgeball is one of the best 10 movies ever made. However, for me, it is probably the movie that I quote the most regularly, and I still laugh at it. So that movie is one of my top 10 favorites. And then I will tell anybody that the most underrated cartoon classic from our childhood that never gets brought up is The Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah, I'm out on that. I'm out on The Great Mouse Detective.
I don't know why we didn't watch it in the Disney class. I mean, it just, it was basically just Sherlock Holmes, but a mouse.
Look, man, like I said, that's why I love movies, man, because you can get something different from it.
Absolutely. Well, staying on the topic of movies, the next one, Cap or Dap, Paul Rudd, the actor, is delightful.
Okay. I like Paul Rudd. Yeah, I like him. Talking about Ant-Man, of course. I love him in a 40-year-old version. Watched the other day. He's really funny in that one, too. Yeah, I love Paul Rudd, so I'm going to go Dap.
I'm Dap on that one, too. I have a long history on this show of just saying Paul Rudd is delightful. I just find him to be a joyous human being, and he comes
one of the people that you would like to meet and be around and hang with.
For sure, I would love to have a beer with Paul Rudd. I just think he just always seems, he may not be, I don't know, but he always seems so authentic,
Yeah, I like him. I'm like that, but about James Franco. Like,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
James Franco is the coolest person in the world.
I don't know if you're allowed to say that anymore. you might get canceled. I don't know.
Oh, did I miss something? Oh God, I hope. What has he done something crazy? I'm sure he probably has.
There are allegations, but we won't mention them. This is a family
look,
show, so
obviously, allegations aside,
Yeah.
I don't even know what the allegations are. But if they're inappropriate allegations, I do not condone them.
But you know what though? The dude is uber talented.
He is, man. He's like, I just feel like, obviously now I want to feel like a butthole for saying this with whatever allegations there are, but I just like he'd be really cool to be around. Like,
Yeah.
when he's in movies like The Interview or Why Him, like stuff like that, like I'm just like, man, this dude seems like he'd be pretty cool to hang around.
For sure. I even like his little brother's a good actor too.
I never knew he had a brother. There you go.
I think his name is Dave, I believe.
Okay.
But what was he in? He was in that movie. It was a comedy where somebody moves next to a fraternity house.
Neighbors. Was he in Neighbors?
I think he was in Neighbors.
He's the guy with the glasses.
I think he was the frat guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that you say that, he does kind of put me in the mind.
Was Paul Rudd in that movie?
Say that again.
Was Paul Rudd the husband in that movie?
I don't think so.
Okay. See, I'm just inserting Paul Rudd now. He's on my mind. I don't know.
Look, I have seen that movie in passing, but I've never watched it all the way through. But it definitely seems like something I would like.
Yeah. Moving on from Paul Rudd, Cap or Dap, you have had a paranormal experience.
Ooh, have I had a paranormal experience? You know what? I cannot recall a paranormal experience. So I'm gonna go Cap on that. But I do believe in paranormal. So
Yeah.
I'm not discounting that I may have had one that I ignored, but I can't remember anything like weirdly moving or weird voices or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll say Dap, and my definition of paranormal on this show is pretty lenient. Basically, just anything that happens that is not easily explained through commonly known science today.
Oh well, absolutely. I'm all Dap. I'm double Dap.
Yeah. I don't know. I've had a few weird experiences that I've talked about on the show, and I won't get into the full stories of them. But I'm gonna go with Dap. At least a couple times, some things have happened that I was like, "Whoa, what in the world was that?" I do not understand what I just experienced. You know?
Okay. Yeah. I like your definition. So we using that definition as the precursor. Then absolutely Dap.
Cool. Cap or Dap? Joe Biden, our president, will fall up the stairs again during his presidency.
I'm sure that's Dap. Yeah, I'm sure that's Dap. Joe is hilarious. I'll say that.
Accidentally.
I really don't get too deep off into political kind of opinions. I wished our president could get through a phrase without saying something silly or becoming a meme every week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think he will fall at some point again. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm Dap on that one too. It's already happened. Twice where we saw it on the news, and I feel bad for the guy. I mean, he's like
I do too.
80 years old. This is my thing. Yeah. You know, however you feel, whatever way you vote. I tell people on this show I didn't vote for Joe Biden. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I'm not Republican or Democrat. But I feel like we need both wings, the right wing and the left wing, for this American eagle to soar. We all have a role to play. However, if you have a grandpa that's 80 years old, would you put that grandpa in charge of running the entire country? I
think I was watching. I had been watching stand-up, and I don't know who it was. So the last few stand-ups I watched was Cat Williams, Marlon Wayans, and Chris Rock. So out of the three of those, one of them did a bit about Joe Biden and people talking about how he's so terrible running the country. And he's like, yeah, you put your 90-year-old granddaddy in charge of running the country, and he's going to be doing the same thing.
I'm telling you, yeah. My pawpaw
he's almost 90, so.
My pawpaw just had a birthday. He's 82. I think he turned 82, and I love him to death. He's a great man. I don't want him to be in charge of the whole country.
Right.
And I just, it's time. It's time. We got to have, at some point in America, we got to have some younger people in office,
I don't know why all the presidents have to be in their 60s, 70s already. Like, why can't we do we feel like we can't have a 40-year-old president? Maybe that's a discussion for another day, too.
Yeah.
I don't know how young Barack was. He obviously wasn't that old.
Right.
Like 70s or 80s. But why can't we have like a 42-year-old president?
Yeah.
Maybe people don't think he's experienced or seasoned enough. But I think we have to find a middle ground between, 65 and 85. Like, we shouldn't have a president that's retired or something at this point.
Yeah, I mean, somebody might not be seasoned enough, but on the other hand, your expiration date's coming up also on the other end of things.
Yeah,
so
I think that's I'm definitely in favor.
We can find a balance.
Younger guy kind of in all.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, the last one, Doaty, you have already just had a perfect segue into this. You talked about stand-up comedy. Cap or Dap, Dave Chappelle is a top 5 comedian of all time.
Oh, absolutely. He's top 2 for me.
Top 2,
other than
okay.
Richard Pryor, I've never laughed at anybody else like Dave Chappelle.
So
I put him 1.
Who are your top 5?
Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle, Red Fox is another funny one of mine. I would say Prime. I like Prime Cat Williams at like number 5, and then at 4, who would I put at 4? I know I kind of skipped around, but who would I put at 4? I don't know. I like Robin Williams. Robin Williams keeps coming up in my head.
Yeah, that's a good list.
So I'm gonna go with him. I'm gonna go Robin Williams.
Yeah. Some of the same ones I have. I would have Richard Pryor and Dave Chappelle 1 and 2 in my book. Probably 3. I would have Bernie Mac.
Oh man! Oh my God! I forgot about Bernie. Sorry.
I love Bernie Mac.
My top 5.
Bernie.
Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
And Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle, Bernie Mac, Red Fox, and Robin Williams.
And my list would be exactly the same, except for number 4. I would have George Carlin.
Okay.
I think George Carlin is probably the funniest white man.
I don't know. Robin's super funny.
Robin would be close.
Obviously super funny.
I do like Seinfeld. I do like Seinfeld. I think that what set Carlin apart is he's in that same vein as Dave Chappelle, that they can take cultural issues that aren't funny and make them funny, and then also communicate a point. You know
who else I really love that's kind of off the beaten path that maybe people that aren't like us that like comedy don't know about?
Who's that?
Louis C.K.
Yeah.
Louis C.K. is another really funny one too.
Again,
and
you're gonna get canceled.
A lot of jokes for a lot of those big time guys that you never knew about too. So Louis C.K. is a big deal.
Yeah, and you'll get canceled for saying that also. So you just.
Now I know he did. I heard about something he did, but
the
guy is
Louis.
funny. Like
Louis, he is very funny.
I would not.
He's very funny.
I'm not on the hill trying to.
Not condoning his actions.
Myself, but
just he writes good jokes.
Anything inappropriate that anybody does.
Yeah, he just writes good jokes.
Aside, just pure comedy.
Yep.
The guy's hilarious.
Yeah, and probably my favorite, one of my favorite comedians working today that doesn't get enough credit to me is Theo Von.
Okay.
Do you know Theo?
Check him out. No, I haven't heard of him.
Oh man, he's from Louisiana. He's from Covington, Louisiana.
Okay.
One of my favorite jokes that he talks about, he says, I'm from a small town called Covington, Louisiana. He says, Lee Harvey Oswald went to middle school there, and Pistol Pete Maravich is from our town, so couple good shooters. Couple good shooters. And so I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, he's just wild. Like his thought pattern is not linear at all, and he's one of those comedians that he starts a joke and then he ends it somewhere else that you never would have seen coming. And I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check him out, man.
Yeah. Well, Doaty, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you in the shed tonight. Thank you for sharing your story, for talking about your podcast, for just letting us get to know you a little bit.
Man, like I said, it's an honor and a pleasure to be in the shed with you. To all the tools out there, man, just keep supporting Wes, man. We as podcasters, we're nothing without our support groups, our listeners, our fans, whatever you want to call yourselves. we do this, vulnerably and try to give you guys good stories that'll give you laughs, cries, or motivate you somehow. So we can't do it without you. I know he appreciates you. I appreciate y'all listening to me, giving me an ounce at the time. I had a blast, man, and this went on a lot longer than I probably think both of us expected, and that's a good thing to me. I mean, we had fun, so man, I would love to come back whenever you want to have me, man. You hit me up, and I'm available. I'll make it happen.
For sure. Great conversation. His podcast is called Cerebral Chaos. Check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Timothy Doaty II, a.k.a. Doaty. And give a shout out real quick. Let people know where they can find your show, where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, man. I'm not really huge on social media, so you're probably not going to find me there. Honestly, you can check the podcast out. I do have an Instagram page, Cerebral Chaos Pod, on Instagram, and it's Cerebral Chaos on Facebook as well. You can find me on Instagram at Doachella if you want to. That's Doachella, which is what I call myself from time to time on the show. And Instagram, I'm on there with my name, Timothy Doaty. Sorry, Facebook, I'm on there with my name, Timothy Doaty II. You can also hit us up at cerebralchaospod@gmail.com, where we have some people send in questions sometimes, send in reviews or just thoughts on the show. I would just say if you can give us a listen, please like, share, subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating. That obviously helps. And I just hope you enjoy it. If you get anything from it, if you laugh from it, if you cry from it, if you hate it, whatever emotion it gives you, I still appreciate it. And I thank you.
Thank you for being on the show, Doaty.
No, man, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
That's all for this week. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I can't either. It's back in the house and out of the shed for me. Thanks again for listening to episode 60. Make sure to subscribe, like, share, and review. It really does help. If you have any paranormal experiences, opinions about sports, or politics that you'd like to share, you can email the show at intheshedwithwes@gmail.com. Again, that's intheshedwithwes@gmail.com. I might even read it on air. Look for us on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, the Good Pods app, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure to follow us on Twitter at InTheShed4. Tune in again next week when we'll hit the headlines, check in on our bracket, and take a deep dive into the Coast to Coast Area 51 tapes. This has been In the Shed with Wes Anderson, the best news show in the land covering politics, sports, and the paranormal. Have an adventurous and fulfilling weekend. I'll catch you tools later. Peace out, Boy Scout. Meemaw, we made it!
We sure did.